Hi friends, welcome to Aruba and the first international vlog. Down here actually on a mini vacation with my wife Megan, and it's the first time we've been here together. It is time to get some hands in, I think, and go find a poker room or two. Now, I went to Aruba like years ago when I was in college for spring break, but I think the poker scene has changed a lot since then. I did a lot of research now. It seems like there are a couple hotel resorts that have decent games. One of them is the Hilton and the other one is the Holiday Inn. I'm actually staying at the Holiday Inn. I checked earlier, they only had one table of 1-3 and it looked shorthanded. Hilton they run 2-5. They had multiple games going. I think that all the rooms close at 3 a.m. here though. But this is the first night we are here. We're gonna go check it out. It's been a while since we've played. I do know that Rampage, not too long ago, he put a vlog out. He was down here for the WSOP circuit event and had a pretty decent vlog in Aruba. So that is what we're going to go do here. People are super nice down, and I think most of the players will be tourists, maybe mixed in with some regs. So stay tuned. Let's see what happens. So before we get to our first hand that I was able to record, just want to give you a quick rundown. So I get to the Hilton poker room. Looks like they are full. There's 2 tables that look full. I asked the floor guy if there was a wait line or a process, and he just kind of grabbed a chair and said, "Hey, we'll just insert you somewhere." I'm like, okay. So he makes one of the tables 10-handed. I guess that's what they do there. It's a 2-5. He tells me 1K max, and I find out the next day that it's actually matched the stack, but I thought it was 1K max the whole time. I think the overall vibe is pretty laid back down there, and I remember it being like that when I was there 15 years ago during college, that it's kind of like go with the flow. Some people say one thing about chip stacks, because when I asked a casino staff member what the buy-in limits were on the phone, they couldn't really tell me. They're like, I think it's 200 to 1,000 or 2,000 or something. So anyhow, first hand, I sit down, and oh, by the way, there are straddles at any position, but I straddle my first hand, and most of the people at the table don't even know what that is. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go then. That they were certainly not straddling. Again, a lot of tourists that were just there to have a good time and not really focused on playing good poker. One of my first hands, before I could even get my camera out and get situated, I get jacks, and long story short, I get it all in pre-flop on a 4-bet. I raised, he re-raised, I called. Jacks versus aces, we ran it twice, he won. So not a great start. They doubled up a $600 stack, so we're stuck early.
Today we are going to tell you how to withdraw money from ATM machine.
Speaking of aces, that's exactly what I have here. And now that I've got my camera set up and good to go, we are rolling. We got an early position limp. I'm in the cutoff. I raised to 30, the button, and the limper call. Flop is pretty sweet as it is ace 5-4. Flop the second nuts. Top set. In this situation, a lot of times I would bet and play it fast, but for this time, I'm going to try to disguise my hand strength here, and after the limper checks, I check as well, and the button bets 50, it just goes call, call. Turn is an 8 of hearts, checks around here. Again, I was hoping the button would fire again, and this is probably where I would have check raised, but that didn't happen. However, the river is the 8 of diamonds. Perfect card because it pairs the board as well as bringing the front door flush in. The early limper bets 170, and he's an older gentleman, and I feel like he's probably playing pretty tight, and it seems like the flush is what he's got here. I end up shoving. He's got about 500 back. The button folds rather quick, and then the guy who just bet the river, he ends up tank folding, unfortunately. I thought for sure that he would think that I could have had nothing, especially the way I played the hand. I turned my hand over because they do have a high hand, and it was only $75, but it's kind of cool because they had a high hand for each table. So each table had its own high hand. Yeah, and you only had to play one card. Next, I button straddle and pick up a premium, the queen 5 off. Just the blinds limp in, and I check the option. We go to a flop of queen 5 ace. Big blind bets 25. I just call. Small blind folds. The turn is a 5 of hearts filling me up. It goes check, check. He only has about 90-ish left, so definitely want to trap him here. River is a 2 of clubs, and I'll let the audio play for what happens here.
Oh, that's the card I was looking for. The deuce.
One better.
Okay, I will. Because he told me to.
Calls my all-in bet, and I show my queen 5, and we are good.
Full house.
Full house. You got it.
It goes here.
That's not it.
Then we're in the big blind, and we get a big hand, or actual big hand this time. It's pocket kings. We've got a cutoff raise to 30, a button call. I squeeze to 150, and somehow they both fold, and the cutoff actually shows ace queen, and I don't know how he folded such a good hand there pre, but I guess unlucky for us, unless, of course, we're going to lose the hand. Next hand. We've got pocket sevens. We're under the gun, and we straddle to 10. Plus 1, blind raises to 30. There's a couple late limpers, and I just call. The table at this point is pretty social. I can tell that they're playing pretty passively and aren't that good, so I don't want to be a huge bully every hand, as I'm already driving the action, straddling, raising a lot. So in a normal spot, if I'm playing to win, yeah, I'm going to be raising here against the blind raise and calls. But in this spot, I decide to just call and hope for a 7.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box?
Not sure you want to know what's in the box, but I can tell you what's on the flop. And that would be a7 as it comes down. Jack, 9, 7, rainbow, checks around. The turn is a 4 of clubs. I continue trapping and check. The blind raiser bets 40. The others fold, and I raise to 175. He calls pretty quick. River is a king of spades. I bet 200. He snap calls, and my set is good. Just like Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman in the movie 7.
Always had crushes. I had crushes. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I had crushes. I always had crushes.
Speaking of crushes, it's time to crush some more souls at the table, and that's exactly what happens this next hand. We are in the hijack, and I get dealt pocket jacks. Middle position opens to 20. I 3-bet to 70. He calls. Flop is jack, 6, deuce, 2 spades. He donk leads here for 85, and he's only got 200 behind, so I just call. Turn is a 10 of clubs. He checks. I bet 75, and he calls rather quick. River is the 6 of hearts. He shoves for his remaining 125, and I think about it here for a while. It's a real tough decision. I don't have the nuts. He might have quad 6s. It's only 125 more, though. So, yeah, I end up making the call. And nope, he didn't have pocket 6s, so we're good. Easy game when you hit sets and boats, and they just keep betting into you. Apparently, I was at a must-move table, so I get called to head to the other one, but in my last hand, I get 8, 9 off, open to 20 blind, and then another guy goes all-in blind for 80. Another guy calls after that. I end up calling just to be nice and try to give some money back, and runs out, ace-king wins, whoop-de-doo, on to the next table. At the new table, there are bigger stacks. It looks more serious. It looks like there are some Euro regs, and it seems more like a typical Vegas Blasio 2-5, 5-10. It just has a different vibe than the other table. The first significant hand I played isn't that eventful, but I've got ace-queen in the cutoff. Plus 1 opens to 20. I 3-bet to 60. The big blind cold calls, and then the original raiser calls as well. Flop comes down king 10-7, 2 diamonds. They both check to me. I see bet here, pretty standard. I've got range advantage, so that's probably going to hit me better than them. Bet 120, and they both fold. Good news is that the silent, unfun, more grindy regs get up and leave, and then some of the more fun social players from the previous table end up filling in at this main one. Growing up, Ken Griffey Jr. was my favorite baseball player, so naturally when I get the 2-4 off, I have to play it. I actually straddled this hand to 15 in the cutoff, and it had been a while since I won a hand, and I decided that I was going to play this hand hard regardless of what was coming, as I was getting antsy. When I went to reposition my camera, I actually ended up stopping this recording midway through by accident, so I'll just freeze frame it for the vlog. But there's 3 calls in front of me pre-flop, and I raised to 75. Only 2 of them call, and they're weaker ABC type players. Flop is King Jack 8 Rainbow. They check, and I bet 125, and they both call. The turn is the 3 of clubs, putting 2 clubs out there. They both check again, and I bet 375. Only the first guy calls. So heads up to the river of the 5 of clubs, bringing in the backdoor flush. He checks, and I put him all in for his remaining about 1100-ish. He folds pretty quick, and I show the deuce 4. Next hand, we're just 1 jack off from a big pair, but instead we've got the jack 7 off. I button straddle to 10 on this hand. And here's a good example. If I'm playing in a tougher game or higher stakes with much better players, I won't be straddling as much because I don't want to be put in spots where I just have a lot of dead money or I'm having marginal hands having to play post flop. But in a lower stakes game or a table where I feel like the players are pretty weak, I'll be straddling a lot more, and I'm more confident playing hands that an average straddle hand because I'm more confident playing post flop and navigating with the weaker play. And this is a perfect example of that. So in this spot, a middle position opens to 40. The cutoff calls, I call, and the big blind calls. So we're 4 ways to a flop that comes jack 3 deuce 2 clubs. The original raiser bets 140, and it just is a little fishy the way he does it. The cutoff goes all in for less for only 80. I call the 140 here, as I certainly don't want to fold top pair yet. The big blind folds. Turn comes a 3 of spades, and again, the original raiser bets out 170 this time, which in relation to the pot is pretty small. He's got about 500 behind. I make the call because I'm not fully convinced that he's got me beat yet. River is a 10 of hearts. He checks. I'm happy to check it down here. He could have me beat, but I've got good showdown value, and I don't really see much value from betting as I'm probably not getting called by anything that I beat. The original raiser, as expected, shows king-queen off, so he was just barreling with just overs. And the all-in short stack shows king-queen of clubs, so they were sharing each other's outs, which was good news for my jack 7, which is good for a decent pot. 2 hands later, we're in the hijack, and we have queen 10 off, folds around to us. We make a pretty standard open to 20, small blind calls, and the big blind 3 bets here to 95. He's got about 1,500 effective. I obviously make the call, small blind calls as well. Flop comes down, ace 10 3 rainbow, small blind checks, big blind bets 170. I call, small blind calls as well, so we're still 3 ways. Turn comes a 9 of diamonds, and this time it checks around. River is the 10 of hearts. Hello! They both check. I bet 750, trying to make it look like a bluff. Small blind insta folds, and the big blind, the original raiser, he tanks and folds. Boo. This video starts with the flop action, but to catch you up, I've got ace 3 of diamonds. I was under the gun and straddled to 10 pre. There was 5 limpers, and I made it 70 total. There was just 2 callers, 1 mid position, and the hijack. The flop was 6-5-3 rainbow, and I bet 75 as you see in the video. And just the mid position calls. The way he called, however, was a little fishy, and I wasn't sure if it was good or bad for me. It felt a little off. You know when you just get that sense someone's playing really tight, they're not really engaged, and all of a sudden they just lock in immediately. That's kind of what happened in this spot. So when the turn comes the ace of clubs, normally that's a pretty good card for me, giving me aces up. But again, I just was very unsure of where I was, and I actually tanked for a while before acting on the turn, and I felt like I was either way ahead or way behind, and just had a weird feeling. So I end up checking, and he bets 150 pretty confidently, and I call. Because even if he has me beat there, still not ready to fold yet. The river is a 2 of hearts. I check again. He bets 300, And at this point, I felt like I was beat. And but we don't like to fold. And right or wrong, I incorrectly call 300, and I said, nah, I wish I wasn't so strong. Sure enough, he had 5-5, and my intuition of just something being different than the rest of the hands was correct. However, I lose the pot.
300.
Wish I wasn't so strong.
Call.
Oh, man. Oh, nice hand. I got aces up.
This brings us to our last hand of the session, and it's actually the biggest pot and probably the most fun one we played the entire time. It's about 20 minutes before the casino closes. We are down to 6-handed, and at this point, I'm pretty much playing every hand. A case in point in this hand, when I'm on the button with deuce 6 off. Oh, yeah. Natural 8, baby. Everyone limps in. I limp, and the big blind raises to 25, which is really small. Everyone calls, so it's 6-handed, and I obviously call as well. And the flop is a pretty favorable one. It's deuce 6.
Wow. Is there room for me? I
Big
want to join the
blind
dance.
leads for 75.
How much is that total?
Cutoff calls, and I just call.
350.
Turn is a 5 of spades. Big blind bets 300 again. Now this is the same guy who just beat me last hand with that set of 5s. This time, though, he's a little bit more animated. It wasn't the same feeling and vibe that I got when he actually had it. Partly for that reason, I decided to just play it soft against him because I don't feel like he's got that strong of a hand here, and I want him to keep bluffing if he is bluffing. The cutoff goes all in for 370, and then check out some of this table talk here as I'm debating calling the 370. I mentioned something like, oh, can the big blind raise it all if I just call? I said if I call, he can't raise, right? To the dealer, just to try to throw him off and be deceptive and be playful. So here it is.
So if I call, he can't raise. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So I can't raise. I cannot.
That is correct. You can pretend like you can.
No.
You can pretend like you can to try to scare me.
You can still bet the river.
This is all truth. All truth.
Call. Wallet.
You could have folded too.
So after that fun on the turn, we put the river out, which is the queen of clubs, and the big blind, to my delight, jams for 1,300 and overjam, or as Wesley would say, overplay.
All in.
Call.
Call. I got a queen. Queen. Full house.
Wow, that couldn't have worked out any better.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
That concludes a very fun and active session where I ran very well and won most of my significant hands, as you could see. In just over 4 hours, I made $2,400. I think my profit could have been higher, but I definitely spewed off some, playing about an 80% VPIP, and there were a lot of hands where I would just raise or call a pre and on the flop and then would just fold, but they weren't really worthy enough to make the vlog and with all the other action hands that we had. Overall, Aruba is a fantastic place, and I gave a more detailed tourist review of all the aspects on my Instagram at DJWashburn_ if you want to know more. The Hilton Poker Room is definitely the best spot for poker on the island. I know it's quite busy during the WSOP circuit events that are in September. If y'all have any other questions, want to know more about the poker scene and anything else about Aruba, feel free to message me on social media or drop a comment in this video, and I will do my best to get back to you. As always, thank you for your likes, subscriptions, and support, and I'll see you for the next one.